Hello everyone, I'm Peter. Welcome to our space for true stories. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. We will select the best comments to send to the original poster of the real Reddit story. We hope your insights help them overcome their challenges. Thank you for being part of our community. Please sit back and enjoy today's story. My fiancée came out as bisexual after attending a wedding alone. Betty, 27, and I, 30, got engaged in January after dating for a few years. We planned to get married next year after saving enough for the wedding. Shortly after our engagement, we moved in together at the end of January. In May, Betty was a bridesmaid at one of her friends' weddings, and I couldn't attend because of work, so it was a 5-day trip for her. Betty had a great time reconnecting with some old friends, but a few weeks after she returned, she became moody and withdrawn. I was relieved when she scheduled a therapist appointment because she still wasn't opening up to me about what was bothering her. After about 5 or 6 sessions on a Saturday morning, she asked me to sit down so we could talk. Betty grew up in a very conservative family, which forced her to suppress her desires until she went to college. Even then, she denied and refused to accept some ideas. At the wedding, she was introduced to the wife of one of her college girlfriends, and that sparked a lot of repressed feelings during the days they hung out before the wedding. She told me that she felt romantically and sexually attracted to both women and men and realized she's bisexual. I told her I was happy she finally felt safe enough to share that with me and that it didn't change how I felt about her, which was a very emotional moment. She asked me how I felt about her exploring her sexuality now that it was out in the open. I said I was open to exploring that with her, maybe even having a threesome with another woman so she could have that experience. She wanted to have a solo experience with another woman and felt she couldn't do it with me present. I told her that sounded more like cheating, and it was something I wasn't comfortable with. I asked if she wanted to call off the wedding and maybe separate while she figured out what she wanted. She insisted that wasn't what she wanted, that she still loved me very much and still wanted to marry me, but she felt she had to explore these feelings she's been holding before we settled down together. I asked if she did anything inappropriate at the wedding, and if she cheated on me. I asked if she had been thinking about someone or talking to anyone since she got back. She admitted that she danced with a girl at the reception, and they kissed at the end of the night, but nothing else happened. She denied talking to anyone or planning anything further. She knew this was a lot to drop on me at once, and she didn't expect an answer right away. She just asked me to keep an open mind and keep talking about it. I couldn't promise anything but agreed to do some research and talk to a coworker who has an open marriage to see how they handle things. I warned her that if I found out she lied or did anything behind my back, there would be no second chance, and I would walk away. My coworker was helpful and open about their relationship. My brother also connected me with a support group that helped me process the changes in our relationship. I was reading my second book and sat down with Betty on Thursday night to check in and talk about moving forward. I found us couples therapist, gave her the book I had finished, and told her we should postpone the wedding for 6 months and then decide if that's still the path we're on. I was on a roll when she cut me off and asked if I planned to date other people, something that hadn't even crossed her mind, thinking I would also date. After that, she went almost completely silent, barely responding with more than a word or two when I asked her anything. The longest response I got was, "I just don't know." She stayed like that for 24 hours, completely lost in a fog. I've been bracing myself for the inevitable emotional flood. I thought she'd be happy that I was considering opening up our relationship. My brother came out as gay when I was 16, and my parents were very supportive, so I grew up in a very different household from my girlfriend. Update 1. By Saturday evening, the fog started to lift, and things got pretty heated. She said the open relationship idea was me punishing her and getting revenge by dating other women. She was just begging for some grace to explore her feelings. I replied that she didn't seem to regret cheating on me, and was instead hoping for a free pass to do it again. I told her that our friends had informed me she asked them not to tell me what happened at the wedding, so I might never know the full truth, and I had to accept that it was worse than what she admitted. I asked if she thought it was fair to go have sex with someone else while I waited by the door like a sick puppy, expected to wag my tail when she decided to come home and give me attention. Things escalated from there, and we both said some hurtful things. In the end, I gave her 3 options if she wanted to move forward. Monogamy, postpone the wedding and go to couples therapy. No experimenting. When we get to a good place, we'll continue with the wedding, but with a prenuptial agreement to protect me if she changes her mind and or cheats again. Open relationship, we both date whoever we want, and she can figure out her sexuality on her own. In about a year, we'll see if marriage is still a good option if we're still together. Complete separation, she moves out, and we each live our lives as we see fit. If when she decides she wants to be with me and I'm still open to it, we can revisit option 1. But it would be a fresh start, not just picking up where we left off. She decided she needed some space to think and would stay with friends for a few days. I told her before she left that if she cheats while she's gone, don't come back except to get her things. This morning, I got a text from her saying, "I'm so sorry." She hasn't replied when I asked what she meant, and my call went to voicemail. I won't reach out again, and I'll wait for her to contact me when she's ready. Update 2. Previously, my fiancée came out as bisexual and had an encounter with a woman at her friend's wedding. On Wednesday, Betty went to her scheduled therapy session and talked about what had happened between us. I don't know all the details, but she called me on her way to her friend's house to apologize for some of the things she said and wanted to come home to have a clear conversation. I told her to stay with her friend that night, think about what she wanted, and come home on Thursday so we could sit down and work things out. On Thursday, we met at home and talked over dinner. We both apologized for being heated and saying unfair things to each other. After talking with her therapist and having several conversations with her best friend over the past few days, she decided not to explore her bisexual urges. The idea of a truly open relationship, where I'd be free to sleep with others, scared her, and getting married was more important than chasing a rainbow. Her initial idea was just a free pass to see if she was missing something in life and how important it was to her. I asked her what exactly she had wanted, just a one-night stand, only dating a woman, or a full-blown relationship. She couldn't tell me exactly what she wanted. I told her it sounded like infidelity and wasn't fair. She agreed, and that's why she gave up exploring those feelings. Next, she handed me the papers I'd submitted to cancel our wedding date notice. She said she'd been getting all kinds of calls about what had happened and initially didn't even know what people were talking about. She was upset that I did that without talking to her first. I reminded her that she had thrown 2 grenades in my lap, coming out as bisexual and admitting she'd cheated on me, then left without talking to me, except for the cryptic, "I'm so sorry" message followed by silence. Even though I had never said anything beyond that we had issues and postponed the wedding, there was obviously speculation that she had cheated on me. She shifted gears and said we could still get back on track and get married in the spring. No, because now whenever either of us is away, my mind will go back to you cheating, especially after coming out and wanting to cheat to explore your sexuality. I said maybe after couples therapy we could get back to a good place, but not by the end of the year, and it would be stupid to start planning and making financial commitments before we knew if therapy was working. I also wanted a prenup to protect everything I bring into the marriage, as well as my future retirement savings. Plus, she'd lose any equity in a home if we bought one. When she objected, I said if you plan to stay faithful and not change your mind later, it should never be an issue. It's just something that gives me peace of mind. It's been an ongoing conversation over the past few days. Betty wants to brush the wedding incident aside and move forward with our wedding. From her perspective, exploring her sexuality isn't worth sacrificing our relationship. For now, we've reconciled and plan to seek counseling soon. In a moment of clarity, I realized that I had been too quick to accept the idea of an open relationship, giving Betty the freedom to explore her new feelings. and now I'm no longer willing to consider that option. I think breaking up would be the better choice, separating for a while until we both decide what direction our future is headed in and whether it's together or not. It's not what I want, but I don't want to spend 3 to 5 more years together only for her to change her mind or cheat on me someday. Update 3. It's been a terrible week. Couples counseling started off badly when I walked into the office and saw a huge pride flag on the wall. Our therapist was very biased toward my girlfriend's struggles, making it all about her infidelity and how I need to be more supportive of Betty's awakening and journey of self-discovery, blah blah blah. Betty was the confused one, and I wasn't providing her with a safe space to explore who she is. None of my feelings or needs were addressed. Worse, as the therapist piled on, I looked at Betty, hoping she would stand up or say something supportive for me, but I got nothing. That hurt me the most, and I went almost silent for the rest of the session. Toward the end, the therapist tried to engage me because you could tell she knew she had completely lost me. On the drive home, Betty tried to talk to me, and I just gave her 3 answers that I kept repeating to the therapist: sure, no, and maybe. This was the therapist her personal therapist had recommended for us. The next day, I got a call from Betty's mom at work, wanting to know why we postponed the wedding when her family and friends had already started planning. I told her she needed to talk to her daughter. She kept pushing me until I finally said that Betty had hooked up with someone at her friend's wedding, and that's why everything was on hold. Then I hung up on her. Less than an hour later, I got a call from Betty, demanding to know what I told her mom. I said you kissed someone at a wedding, and we're trying to work through it, and I didn't mention that you came out to me. I told her she needed to sit her mom down and tell her the whole truth, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Then I got this message from her mom, telling me I needed to try and get over this, and that I might even be to blame for not attending the wedding with her. All caps yelling at me about my responsibilities and trying to tell me what I need to do. I showed the message to Betty when she came home from work and told her she needed to deal with her mom, or I'd tell her the whole story about all our issues the next time she tore into me like that. Betty said she'd handle her mom and made me promise to give her time to explain everything to her. Also, this week, Betty has been extra protective of her phone, which was a huge red flag. I went to charge my phone and unplugged hers to use the charger, and she practically flew across the room to grab it out of my hand. Later, I snuck a look at her phone while she was asleep and found out she changed her passcode, something she hadn't done since we started dating. I went online and checked our phone bill, and there were all these long calls to a Colorado area code, which is where the girl she kissed is from. At this point, I'm mentally exhausted, drowning in lies, deceit, and a constant feeling that I'm walking on water. Lately, when we've been intimate, she lacks the passion that used to be there. I feel like I'm being love-bombed, with no feeling behind it. It's just empty words and empty gestures. Tomorrow we're going to her parents' house for a cookout. I'm going to try to keep my cool and not say anything, just cross my arms and shut up. But when we get back, I'm telling Betty I'm done. I'll give her the choice between keeping the apartment or moving out. She'll be free to explore and find what truly makes her happy, and that's not me. I've confessed the entire mess to my parents and a few friends. My tribe is ready to support me and help me move when I need to. My dad vetoed my mom's offer to move back in with them and said what I really need is a new puppy, way too old to be living with retired parents. Now that I've made up my mind, I feel an oddly peaceful calm. To all the people who told me so, you were right. It's time to move on with my life. Update 4. Betty and I came home early from the cookout at her parents' place. I'd planned for my sister to be at the apartment when we got back as a witness, but she didn't show up for a few hours. I gathered us all in the living room and told Betty I couldn't do this anymore and I was done. I said I had lost all trust in her and couldn't see a way forward, and the best option was for us to go our separate ways. Betty couldn't understand what I was saying, and that she'd been honest ever since confessing what happened at the wedding. I asked if she had been in contact with the girl she kissed at the wedding, and she denied it. I asked to see her phone, and she refused, saying it would violate her privacy and the privacy of the people she's been talking to. Fine, then who have you been calling with the 720 area code, and maybe I should call to see who picks up. It didn't really matter because it proved my point. I gave her the choice to move out or for me to leave, and I also said I'd give her back the money she contributed to our wedding savings account. She tried to convince my sister to leave or to talk to me alone, but I told her I had been advised to have a witness present just in case. She shifted from crying to anger, and after an hour and a half, she finally calmed down enough for us to talk civilly about everything. We talked until nearly midnight. This morning, Betty decided to move back to her parents' house for the time being, and the three of us packed her things. While we waited for her dad and brother to come pick up her stuff, she tried to convince me to see a different counselor and give therapy another shot, but I said it would be a waste of time. I could never trust her again, and that was that. I didn't talk to her dad or brother when they came. The friends who covered for her know most of everything from my perspective. Betty hasn't talked much to them since the wedding. The husband is especially upset that she's still in contact with the woman she kissed, and his wife reassured me that I'm lucky I found out now rather than later. At first I thought this was just a bump in the road and something we could work through. But it's become a bottomless pit, and I believe her first therapist led her down the wrong path. But ultimately, she became selfish and only cared about herself, and that's what really disappointed me. It breaks my heart to think she threw away everything we had and all the plans we made. It's like she became a completely different person in such a short time. I had a great relationship with her family. Things turned sour with her mom when I postponed the wedding. Her mom had been busy planning it and was almost over-involved. So when I pulled the plug, she took it hard, almost personally. I've changed everything except the locks, waiting for the landlord for that. Definitely cutting off some friends after this, though most of my core group has been solid through the whole drama. As for Betty, she's gone for good. All her things are out of the apartment, and she's gotten a portion of our wedding savings. I've blocked her on everything and have no intention of reaching out to her again. I don't need closure, an apology, or an explanation. She's tried multiple times to contact me through friends and at work. People at work know not to bother me and won't even take her messages anymore. My friends politely explain why I'm not taking her back, and they understand and usually leave it at that. I've had to block a few people who tried to follow up with me to talk on her behalf.